department. Nation Food Groups is what it's called now, Prime Pack. We see that we have City Fire Department Station 4. It's not even a quarter of a mile. For Medford, that's our fire station. It's about a mile, probably and a half on down the road. They're called to burns initially. That's what they're called for initially, called to burns. They go en route and they say stay on primary. That's gonna be important. So the way we're set up is we're dispatched on the primary channel, and then we're given a TAC channel to go to and talk on. I'm not sure if you do it that way, but the reason why we do it that way is because we have a lot of calls. In this very thing, we try to cut some of them out, but there's about 7 other calls that happen just like that. That's going on in the county. It ain't got nothing to do with this. So from a supervisor standpoint, your battalion chief, your field supervisor, your commander, or whatever, and you're riding down the road and you're getting calls coming in, one of your jobs is to keep up with what's going on with all your units. If this just happens, of course it's a burn. So just another call. But we've got a burn going over here, we've got a difficulty breathing going over here, and you're just riding down the road. But what Engine 24 says as soon as they get here changes the dynamics. You're gonna hear it if you listen close, you're gonna hear their voice kind of pick up. You know those calls where you hear people kind of pick up the pace. So they're telling us to stay on primary. The reason why at that time that we was doing that was, here's a different call in the county, right behind it. What's important about that is that's the station that backs up to the station that's going. So it boom, just like that, in that one area, they're all gone. All right, so Engine 24 is there. Quick. Established command, prime command. Here we go.
Prime command.
We'll stop it. We don't talk about that. All right, so what they say? Can I catch it? Can you hear it?
Start HazMat.
All right, so Engine 24 goes on scene, established command. They go in and check. What are they responding to? Burn. You don't expect them to be in gear and air pack, and they didn't get called to a HazMat call. They got called to a burn. They go in. They're the first engine there. We have a med unit respond. They go in. They're met with chaos. This facility has 130 something employees, and they're going berserk. People are running everywhere. They go in and he's met with, we got people down. So he comes back, he calls for a full assignment. So what he's asking for, by the way we work, is he's asking for like a commercial assignment. We're looking for multiple engines, we're looking for multiple med units. But then I think he kind of probably said, oh, what I really need is a HazMat. Because what you're gonna also hear is that we have 3 battalions, and at the time we had a brigade commander, which was kind of a shift supervisor. We've since changed our method of operations, but you'll hear the commander come back and say, is he asking for a full assignment or is he asking for HazMat? You'll also hear one of our battalion chiefs who covers that district, he starts kind of getting on the radio and asking some questions. And at some point or another, I want to talk about that particular battalion chief. It's going to set the foundation for where we're going at the end of this, okay? So I'm gonna start it back. He said, asking for a full assignment, and now he's asking for a HazMat, okay? So let's listen up. 4, are we on the TAC channel? That's what it just said. That 4 is responding.
Engine 1, Engine 12, Engine 7, Engine 22, Med 5, Med 9, Squad 7, Truck 5, responded units at 2076 on Memorial Park Drive, 2076 on Memorial Park Drive. This is contact to all traffic.
Now the official put them on the TAC channel. All units go to TAC 5, whatever it is. Commander 1.
Were they asking for a HazMat response from PAC or commercial fire response?
We want a commercial or we want a HazMat?
Why not both?
Why are they asking for both? People on the scene are going, we need help. But it's just happening so fast that they ain't really kind of got it together yet.
13 Timber Hills Way, 5313 Timber Hills Way, remain on primary. 10.
Another call. There's a couple right there. We took a bunch of them out to kind of short this down. County's still running. Call comes in for burn, they respond. Other calls are happening. Supervisor's riding down the roads. He's hearing this, he's trying to figure out what's going on. We asked for a commercial assignment. That's a pretty good bit of units. We had other calls happening. Then next thing you're gonna start hearing is you're gonna start hearing a lot of different people talking on the radio. Now, we have kind of learned from this, which in reality, it probably should have been done this way to begin with, but I also know how calls like this kind of get people amped up. If you are on a unit in our service, if you're on a unit, and Med 4 is the one that I'm gonna be talking about, he starts asking questions and asking for response, and it's really not his kind of responsibility to do that. If we need to increase that, that should be coming from our battalion chiefs, it should be coming from our supervisors, because they're the ones that's keeping up with everything, they're the ones that knows what's going on, and by doing that, it kind of breaks the flow of what we're doing. He's asking for something, he's asking for something, they're asking for something, and it just really kind of just muddies up the water. We have a chain there that works, and when you start letting panic or a little bit of chaos take over, things start falling apart. And again, I want to talk about another incident that is related to the battalion chief who is on here, but you're going to see what I'm talking about, and it does not matter how many years of experience, how much training you got, how good you are at it. When chaos starts taking over, you can't stop that train, okay? So start listening to what all these people start talking. He's asking for some more ambulances. That's not his job. Commander's already asked those questions. Battalion 2, we're gonna talk about that, the gentleman right there.
It is now.
It is now.
Radio to contact command. Radio. Sir, I have 2 more med units started. We have another caller on the line advising 2 arrests at the back of the plant.
2 arrests.
Radio, break that bridge. Pull it up, down.
Just pull another one out. Let me stop this. Responding. They're responding to the initial response. They ain't got there yet. They're saying, hey, if we got all this stuff going on, we need some more people. Well, that's kind of out of his lane, right? That's the supervisor's job. There's where things kind of start getting a little bit crazy, because you asking for this, and they're asking for this, and they're asking for this, and the person who's riding down the road is trying to put all that stuff together. They also have been calling, because they said, everybody go to TAC 5. Well, they're calling on TAC 5, and guess what? Nobody's on TAC 5. Nobody's listening to TAC 5. So, Med 4 says, hey, is anybody on TAC 5? Because I'm trying to call you to tell you I need more med units, but nobody's listening. Well, the battalion chief hears that. And he goes, hey, he's on TAC 5, so he's hearing all this traffic. When we move to the side channel, we don't hear the stuff going on primary. That's kind of the idea behind that. We move to the side channel, all these questions are getting asked, and nobody's hearing it. So the battalion chief gets on there and says, hey, is anybody monitoring this? We got a big event going on. We need somebody. They are now. So they assigned a dispatcher to it. So I want to take a second and talk about this particular battalion chief. I want to lay the foundation for the type of supervisor that he is, that I think is important to where we're going to the end of this presentation. His name's Rod Wilson, a good friend of mine. Me and him came to Hall County, same recruit class, 93, he was class of 94. Worked his way up through the system, served in every single position that you could serve in, all the way up to the operations chief. Got into the operations chief and decided that the political portion of that wasn't his speed, and he wanted to come back, so he came back as a battalion chief. So he's the battalion chief and battalion 2 on this particular day. Very important to know that if you was going to be picking somebody on your team, this is the guy you want. Squared away, knows his business, very tactical guy. Follows the line, accountability, no bullshit. This is that guy. Right? Give him the worst day, he's the man you want. Best I can describe it, right? When things start getting crazy, he's gonna rein it in. He's the man. So he started hearing some stuff, and he's starting to kind of take control. He gets there pretty quick. We're almost to the end of the radio traffic, and he gets there, and he needs to kind of rein some stuff in. Because what you don't hear, what I'm about to kind of tell you, you can see real quick how things, this is a huge event. We have multiple fatalities. We have multiple patients. We have 130 people running crazy. Most of them don't speak English. That's an issue. So he's got to pull up, he's got to kind of control this. And the other thing about this is that this building is so large, and I do want to go back and kind of show you where we set up and how things are. It's so large is that when people start getting there, some goes here, some goes there, and it kind of makes it even more complicated. All right, so let's run this thing on out. We run 2 to 3, depending on the station, 2 to 3 on an engine, 2 on the med unit. Some houses will have, like, say, Station 12 has got 2 on the engine, 2 on the mid unit. Some of our bigger stations that run more calls has 3. Gainesville runs 4 on just about everything, I think, pretty close. So, engine 24 gets there, they got 4 people. They go in, they're met with some chaos. Immediately, they're like, hey, this ain't what we came to. How many of us has been to a call that was told one thing and we get there and it's something different? Which is what's happening. They probably knew it the minute that they pulled up, because I'm sure they probably seen people just flooding out of the building, which is one of the hurdles that we was having, was dealing with this, was you got people coming out this direction, you got people coming out this direction, you got people coming out here. So they said, we got 2 arrests at the rear of the building. The rear of the building's here. So they go in, they start kind of triaging, trying to figure out what's going on. And ultimately, I don't know if it's that crew, I think it's that crew that got succumbed from the liquid nitrogen. They began to have some difficulty in breathing. So I think it was 3 Gainesville personnel and 1 of our personnel that ultimately had to be transported. It was all fine, but they were starting to have some issues. These were the ones that was in there initially because we didn't know it was a hazmat call. Okay? Battalion 2 gets here, he comes in and he sets up right here. Pulls in on the CD corner. Everybody starts getting there, and we're realizing that this is a pretty big event. We just really don't know what it is yet. We get our squads there, we get some more engines there, and we need to kind of start laying a foundation of how we're going to mitigate this. We need to do some triage, we need to figure that out. So I have some notes, I want to kind of go through those. So the command structure, Battalion 2 assumed command from Engine 24. He did it in a fixed position. This was one of the things that we kind of changed over the years for command. I was a battalion chief for a long time. I was also one of the brigade commanders, the shift supervisors that we had. And I'm kind of the old school. I like to be out in the street. I like to walk around the scene. I like to see it. Well, we come to realize as a department, that's not the best thing for you. You need to be in a fixed location. You need to be in kind of a closed environment so you're not overcome by all the other stuff. Your focus is not being pulled away. So we was right in the time of us transitioning to being in a kind of a closed environment. So he's commanded a fixed position. Designated Lieutenant 7 as operations. It's something else that we transitioned from. Back then we was using an operational position. So I would be command, you'd be ops. Everybody would talk to ops and ops would talk to command. We're all kind of familiar with that format. We've moved away from that. Anybody in here familiar with the blue card system? We've moved to the blue card system. It's very, very, very similar to what we was doing before. It's just a little more tight. It's a little more tightened in on that. And so what we found in our own department is that freelance can be a killer. So if you've been in this business, and I looked around earlier, if you've been in this business long enough, we all know what happened to Stephen Solomon at the city of Atlanta. What got him killed was freelancing. And I think the people from the city of Atlanta will tell you that. He was in there, they all came out when the thing went wrong. They tried to get a PAR, they called for PAR, they missed him. And that kind of changed some of the methodology on how we did things. We started doing what's called an on deck, meaning that when we got there, if you was not given an assignment, you went to on deck and you was next up. Well, if you're familiar with Blue Card, it also has an on deck, and it kind of utilizes that method. So when you start having some freelancing, you really can't keep up with people. The accountability is not there. So we realized that operations is not really kind of a good fit for us, so we moved away from that model. Then the Med 4, you heard Med 4, we assigned them immediately triage. You got this many victims, you got this many people running around, we got to start doing some triage. I'm going to skip back here because I think it's interesting that we was contacted by our medical director, Dr. Ball. Dr. Ball is also a fireman for us. He's our medical director, works in the East. He's been a volunteer fireman as long as I've been at the county, so 30 plus years. So we have the advantage of not only having a medical director who understands what we do, but he actually works at our department and we're all friends with him. So him and Rod, the battalion chief, are very close. And guess what you think Dr. Ball immediately did when he found out about this facility, or about what was going on. Immediately contacted Rod and said, hey, do not bring 130 people to our hospital. We'll come to you. He got a bunch of doctors, he got a bunch of nurses, and they all came to the scene, and we set up a huge tent, and they did triage, and they took care of people there and transported the ones that needed to be transported. Now, that's a luxury that we have that not everybody has. I understand that. But I do think that that's important, because when you have a situation where you have that many patients, potentially, you can overrun your hospitals, no matter how big they are. 130 patients, no ER is ready for that at one time, okay? Let's go back. So from accountability and communication standpoint, we had some staff show up. Chief, I don't remember, forgive me, but did you come out there? So typically you have something big like that, you're gonna have staff come, not to take over. I am the Deputy Chief of Hall County, but I can promise you that if I respond to one of these today, I would not be going to be in charge, I would be going to support. And that's important for your department to understand that your personnel know that you're gonna have support and not micromanaging. We're not coming to take over. It's important, because then they can work to their best potential and not be worried about somebody standing over. Everybody kind of got to agree to that, right? So, command staff shows up, and we have I say we, but our EMA has a big command